Hi class, for this lecture we're going to look at the evolution of language. Make sure that you take notes because this information will be on the quiz. However, you can always go and look at the transcripts to find information for that. So let's begin. Humans are unique from other species because we have the ability to communicate verbally and we can assign symbolic meaning to things. So basically, language is a set of symbols and meanings that we assign words to. And those symbols, they're internal. And language is the sound we assign to those symbols. So basically, language is just expressing how we think. And we think in symbols. And those symbols, they're internal. And language is the sounds that we give to those symbols. Alright, so language is reflective, and that's in the sense that we can mimic and we mimic and depict each other. And language is also reflective because we can refer to the past, the present, and the future, and we can also make things up. Language is also learned. And we see that with children, and how they learn to speak. And then we see that too with how, you can learn another language if you just study it. And when we're looking at when and how language evolved, what we're basically looking at is how our brains evolved and we developed cognitive facilities. And that's important to know because we need each other to survive, and we need to find ways to be able to convey things to each other. And that's the way that we organize ourselves as humans. So language is also generative. And what that means is that it's we use it so we can reproduce and convey what we think. And even if we have never read a sentence before, and and it's in our native language, we understand what those words are saying and what we're reading. And just how and when language evolved, it is debated. And we have lots of theories and ideas, but, it's just not possible to go back in time and find a prehistoric person and ask them directly. And language does not fossilize, and we just don't know how it started, but we have a bunch of theories. We've had recent evidence that Neanderthal and Homo sapiens, us, shared a common language stream. So what this means is that it's possible that Neanderthals could talk. With archaeology, we know that the earliest forms of writing were the Sumerian Tablets. So this gives us a good idea when writing started, but it still doesn't really tell us when talking started. And, talking had to start first. In order for people to be able to write something down and be able to read it, they had to speak it first. And based on the diversity of languages around the world, researchers think that all languages derive from one proto-language. And basically what this is just it's a type of pre-language. And we have a bunch of different theories on existing, and those different theories are based on the existing languages we have now. Because we know the oldest human remains are found in southern Africa, and we know that, that's where people theorize that humans began. And we started out in Africa on the savannas, and then we spread out from there. So because of that we think that must be where language started. In those southern African cultures, they must have some of the earliest forms of language, and because they're like direct descendants of the first humans. So because of all that, we know that the oldest languages in the world are the Kushan. And they use click consonants for phonemes. And these clicks, they're not seen in any other groups around the world. And phonemes are the smallest unit of sound. So we can use like kiss and kill as an example, you know, to get that different phoneme on those words. We just change those last, so, you know, we change the S to the L's. So the Kushan language is unique because we don't see these click consonants in any other parts of the world in their languages. And the problem with saying that this is the oldest form of language is that we just don't know if click consonants were, you know, a part of Proto-language. So we have 4 models for the evolution of language. And our first one is Calvin's throwing model. And then we have Dunbar's replacement model. We have Deacon's symbols and sex model. And we have Corballis's gestures and spoken language model. So I'll give you a few minutes to write that down. So, our first one is Calvin's throwing module, and basically what this suggests is that language began as a way to help avoid predators or to report on scouting activity. So, early human beings, they learned that by throwing rocks at predators, that would scare them away, and then they can go and steal the carcasses away. And so, we see that the ability to throw and be able to do that well, that created this change to the environment and the way that people were able to survive and adapt. And so, what that led to was kind of higher intelligence, and then that in turn led to being able to make sounds and eventually speaking. So our second model is Dunbar's replacement model. And with this, we see that Dunbar is saying that language began as a form of social bonding. In fact, all primates, like chimpanzees, they will groom each other, and that's kind of the way that they bond and connect to each other. And all primates are social creatures. And with this model, we see that language was developed as a way to replace that grooming. So you can kind of think like these early versions of like barbershops or, you know, beauty shops where people are sitting around and, you know, they're getting their hair and nails done. They're getting groomed by somebody, but at the same time, they can talk to a whole group of people. So this really solidified that bond because you're able, instead of just having one person, you're able to open up, and being able to speak opens you up to be able to talk to more people, and that makes the group more solid. Deacon's symbols and sex module suggests that language started as a type of social contract so that people weren't going around stealing each other's mates. So with human evolution, we see that, you know, in the early stages, hunting was a big part of providing sustenance, and the strongest hunters, bestest hunters, they had the best genes, and they were most desirable by the females. So with this model, we see language developing more as a way to express sexual exclusivity. key. And really what it was is that there had to be a way to show the group that, you know, that you had this social contract, or that individuals had this social contract among each other. So it's kind of like symbols. We had to have that symbolic meaning first, so people had to understand, you know, so-and-so is with that person and they're off limits to everybody else. And so that's what we see. We see the symbols coming first, and then language developing as a way to, you know, to be able to convey that symbol, and as a way for the whole group to understand it. So our last model for the evolution of language is Corbali's gesture and spoken language model. And with this one, it's saying that language occurred as a result of gestures. All primates, we gesture a lot, and we also vocalize. So it's just really that simple. It's like, so eventually over time, using our hands to talk, you know, that kind of created a form of sign language, and then from there we started vocalizing, which eventually led to spoken words. With archaeology, we know that the earliest forms of writing were the Sumerian Tablets. So this gives us a good idea of when writing started, but it still doesn't really tell us when talking started. And, you know, talking had to start first. In order for people to be able to write something down and be able to read it, they had to speak it first. And based on the diversity of languages around the world, researchers think that all languages derive from one proto-language. And basically what this is, it's just it's a type of pre-language. And we have a bunch of different theories on existing, and those different theories are based on the existing languages we have now. With more technology and research, our understanding of the past will constantly evolve, and it's going to continue to do that as we try to unlock the secrets of the past and what it means to be human. So this wraps up our lecture on the evolution of language. As always, if you need any help, please let me know. Continue to strive for excellence. You can do it. Thanks.